Hey everybody, and happy Wednesday evening. Today's weather around Southern California was pretty similar to yesterday. We had plenty of sunshine out there. The marine layer burned off by mid-morning. Temperature-wise, things are going to be warming up from here. So today was probably the last relatively comfortable day before we get into this big heat wave that we've been talking about. And we're tracking the ridge of high pressure, which is responsible for all of the incoming heat. Through tomorrow morning, that ridge is going to be centered over parts of the southern plains, so the heat will be there as well, at least into tomorrow afternoon. But look at what happens as we head into Thursday. There's going to be a trough diving down into parts of the Great Lakes. That will help nudge the ridge to the west, and it looks like by Friday afternoon and Friday evening, it's a lot closer to us here locally. You're going to feel those temperatures really warming up into Friday afternoon. It kind of parks and settles in for the weekend, Saturday and into Sunday. That ridge is almost directly overhead both San Diego and Imperial County, so you're going to be feeling all the excessive heat from it. It's not until early next week, Monday into Tuesday, that ridge finally begins to slide east, and we'll see a little relief from the heat, although it's going to be a slow process to cool off. All right, let's check out the heat alerts that we have out there right now. Notice the extreme heat warning is already in effect for Imperial County through Sunday evening at 8 p.m. For all areas, the heat alerts will expire Sunday night at 8 p.m. The only difference here is some of the start times. So for the San Diego County mountains and deserts, your extreme heat warning begins on Thursday at 10 a.m. and then further west for our valleys, so Escondido, Poway, Ramona, El Cajon, the extreme heat warning begins on Friday, continues through Sunday. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, again, will be the hottest days there. Check out our coastline, not escaping the hot weather either. We have a heat advisory which begins on Friday morning as well at about 10 a.m. Temperatures there won't be quite as extreme, but you're going to notice the warm up as well, and it's going to be quite muggy too. Temperature check here as we approach 6 o'clock on this Wednesday evening. Obviously, the hottest weather is out in Imperial County. We're running maybe a degree or two warmer than yesterday. Again, this isn't the big warm-up that we've been talking about yet. So sitting at 111 in Brawley, 111 in El Centro as well, about 109 in Ocotillo, 111 this evening in Borrego Springs, mid to upper 80s for the mountains, 82 in Escondido, sitting at 77 in La Mesa, mid 70s for our coastline. Downtown San Diego is sitting at 75. That's going to be the place to be over the next couple of days to escape the heat, is right on the coast. Okay, so let's talk about when things really start to warm up. You'll remember that ridge is getting closer to us by tomorrow afternoon, so we're tacking on a few more degrees in Imperial County, up to 116 in Brawley, 115 tomorrow at about 3 o'clock in El Centro, 112 in Ocotillo, 90s for Pine Valley, 87 in Julian. We start talking about the 90s for the valleys too, upper 80s to around 90 for Escondido, and even our coastline may start to see some upper 70s to right around 80 degrees. And then Friday and Saturday appear to be the two hottest days with this heat wave coming up. So here's Friday at about 3 o'clock, Imperial County running 115 close to 120, certainly in the mid 90s for the mountains, mid 90s in Escondido, 93 for La Mesa. Our coastline will be in the mid 80s where we have that heat advisory that's going into effect. And the other thing I'll mention here is for Saturday and Sunday morning, more than likely the marine layer will roll on shore, but it's going to be pretty shallow, close to the ground. So that could aid in a little patchy fog development. That'll burn off by mid-morning, and then look at that, we're off to the races for the heat by Saturday afternoon. 120s possibly across Imperial County. It is really going to be tough, and it's going to feel brutal outside. This is not a day you want to be hiking in the local mountains either. Look at the mid-90s from Julian down through Pine Valley, Temecula at 102, mid-90s for our valleys too. 87 in Oceanside, mid-80s for Carlsbad. And again, we keep the very hot weather going through Saturday evening and right into Sunday. You'll remember a second ago I said you probably want to head to the coast if you're trying to cool down and maybe by the beach. That's true, but like we've been talking about throughout this week, the other thing we have here is a high surf advisory and also a coastal flood advisory. So for the high surf advisory, again, next couple of days we're going to have waves 5 to 8 feet for those south to southwest facing beaches. We could have some sets up to 9 feet. Our west facing beaches about 3 to 6 feet. And then for the coastal flood advisory, we're talking about flooded lots there, parking lots by the beaches, and maybe some of our local parks as well right along the beach, and possibly some more beach erosion, which we've already seen a little bit of here so far this week. So that could become more of an issue here as we go through this weekend. And the reason why we're expecting these bigger waves is because of Hurricane Genevieve, which is pretty far to our southwest, but you can see the wave heights really getting kicked up around here as those swells get sent our way from Genevieve. And you can also see why it's going to be some of those south-facing beaches that are going to be in play here for some of the big waves. Once Genevieve moves west into Saturday, the waves will come down a little bit, but rip current risk will also be elevated here heading into early next week. You know, something we haven't talked a lot about this week because of the heat, obviously, which has been our main focus, is our monsoonal pattern. And with the high pressure system directly overhead this weekend, the chance of rain is zil. It's about 0%. However, a slightly more favorable pattern looks to roll in here August 6th through the 12th. So heading into the second week of August, the Climate Prediction Center is suggesting there is an above normal chance of rainfall, especially in Imperial County, and that does extend westward into San Diego County as well. It doesn't mean we'll get a lot of rain, but possibly some monsoonal moisture that could drive up some of our shower and thunderstorm chances. That's a ways out, and you won't see it here in the extended forecast. What you will see, though, is a lot of heat. We'll start in Imperial County, 113 on Thursday, 114 by Friday. We'll go 120 on Saturday, overnight lows, upper 80s to right around 90 degrees. There's that cooling trend I talked about. By Monday, as a ridge moves away from us, we'll drop back to about 114 by Tuesday, 111 on Wednesday. Again, still in the triple digits, but it'll start to feel ever so slightly better out there. In the mountains, low 90s on Thursday, mid 90s for Friday, upper 90s close to 100 degrees for Saturday. We'll stick with the mid 90s for Sunday, and then again steadily dropping back into the lower 90s by the middle of next week. Overnight lows there are quite warm too. In our valleys, the extreme heat warning begins on Friday. We peak with our temperature Saturday at 97, some of our valley locations getting close to 100. Low 90s for Sunday, about 90 for Monday, and then finally we see the return of the 80s back on the map by Tuesday and Wednesday. And finally, for our coastal areas, you'll notice the heat advisory starts on Friday, 84, 85 for Saturday. The possibility of some patchy, dense fog both Saturday and Sunday morning. More of our typical pattern for weather here as we head into early next week along the coastline. Low 80s on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoon, and overnight lows in the mid to upper 60s. Have a great rest of your Wednesday evening and stay safe out there.